Good evening. I'd like to call to order the April 9th, 2024 regular board meeting. This time I'd like to announce that meetings of the Mechanicsburg Area School District Board of Directors are being recorded and live streamed for the purpose of transparency and increased public access. The live stream, along with recordings from previously held meetings, can be found on the school board's YouTube channel. At this time, if we all would like to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we'll have a brief moment of silent meditation. Roll call, Mr. Longwell.
Mr. Bradley.
Here.
Mr. Frangel.
Here.
Mrs. Huff.
Here.
Mr. Kickline.
Here.
Dr. Lebo.
Here.
Ms. Morgan. Dr. Rhodes.
Present.
Mr. Rupp.
Here.
And Mr. Sanker.
Here.
Endorsement of agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda, Mr. Longwell?
There are no changes or additions to the agenda, Mr. Rupp, and the agenda will otherwise stand as written.
And reading of the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 12th, 2024. Do any board members have any corrections to the meetings of March 12th? Seeing none, they'll be accepted as printed, Mr. Longwell. Moving on to item 2, hearing of visitors of items on the meeting agenda. There will be 2 opportunities for public comment this evening. As a reminder, public comment is limited to residents of the school district. At this time, we have reached the first opportunity for public comment. This opportunity is reserved for comments related to items that are listed on the evening's agenda for a vote. A second opportunity for public comment will occur at the end of the meeting. The second opportunity for public comment is reserved for comments on issues not listed on the agenda and not being voted upon. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and requires community members to observe a reasonable decorum. If you'd like to address the board, please come up to the podium and share your name and the municipality in which you reside. This is for items that are being voted on at tonight's meeting.
Hi, Robert Schaefer, Upper Allen Township. This comment is going to be completely unexpected to anybody, and it will not, I don't think it will disabuse anybody or wouldn't, it's not going to be shocking in a negative way. So looking at the budget proposal, I was surprised. I never thought about this before. I was surprised to see that the personal income tax is roughly 1/3 the budget of the property tax. I always assumed, as I think many people assume, that the property tax is overwhelmingly, what makes up the budget, and property tax is about half of the budget, 51 million as I read it. In personal income tax, roughly 17 million, so about 1/3. So oftentimes you will hear, I've heard sitting here in the last year or so, retirees who say we shouldn't have to pay so much property taxes as retirees, and of course there are some subsidies for those of low income, as you know. But what often is not said is that retirees, and now I am one, do not pay the personal income tax. So we are in essence subsidizing. Yeah, of course we're paying our property taxes, but we might have other income, Social Security or pensions or other. We're not paying a personal income tax on that. So when you hear from retirees complaining about their property taxes, I think it is worth keeping in mind that retirees, and again, including myself, are not paying the income tax that most other people are paying. And again, most retirees, I'm sure, like myself, would not have expected that personal income tax is quite as much of the budget as in fact it is. Now I wish we can all say that the property tax could be redone, more should come from the state. I'm not making any argument about that. I would also argue that maybe retirees with means should pay some personal income tax, but Pennsylvania has set up its tax in a different way. And the personal income tax is not progressive. That's a Pennsylvania constitutional law, constitution as well. But I just wanted to, again, I was very surprised at how much of the budget did come from the personal income tax. And just to say, well, as a retiree, I'm not paying that. I'm going to pay with, not with happily, but yeah, I am. I'm happy to pay my property taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Schaaf.
Any other public comment for items that are on the agenda for a vote tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 4, reports and presentations. Item 4.01, Superintendent of Schools report, Dr. Leidy.
I just have to say in my 14 years, that's the first that's happened, so. Two wonderful opportunities tonight to hear from our schools as we continue to recognize the great things that are happening in Mechanicsburg Area School District. We have Shepherdstown Elementary here this evening who will be doing a presentation for the board, and that will be followed by the Mechanicsburg Middle School, who will also be doing a presentation. So at this point, Mr. David Eckelmeyer is our first year new principal at Shepherdstown, and I think you have some friends here with you this evening.
Absolutely do. So thank you so much, Dr. Leidy. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And we have a special guest here this evening with us. Actually, I'm going to grab the clicker over here. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Leidy, Dr. Bitz, Mr. Longwell, and our school board. Thank you so much for having us this evening. As Dr. Leidy shared, my name is Dave Eckelmeyer, and I'm honored to serve as the principal of Shepherdstown Elementary. And with me this evening is Mrs. Rachel Tackard. Hello. And she is one of our first grade teachers at Shepherdstown, and also the primary handler for Cosmo. So Cosmo is our facility dog at Shepherdstown, and Cosmo is the focus of our presentation. He is one dog who is making an incredible impact at Shepherdstown, and we're going to share a little bit more about Cosmo here this evening. We also have Ben Pahanic. Ben, if you'd like to stand. Say hello. Ben is going to come down in just a few moments. He's a second grader in Mrs. Hennessy's classroom. And then also his mom, Mrs. Pahanic, is our reading specialist at Shepherdstown. So we're very excited to share Cosmo's impact at Shepherdstown here this evening with you. So just an overview, we're going to share Cosmo's story, so a little bit of history. Also, we are going to share his daily schedule, just like our students and our teachers at Shepherdstown. Cosmo has a schedule of his day, so we're going to touch on that and walk through his day and then also his impact at Shepherdstown.
Yeah, so a little bit about Cosmo's history. So Cosmo was actually born in Lancaster on November 23rd in 2019, so he is a COVID puppy. He began his journey as a service dog at just 8 weeks old. He did puppy training at UDS until he was about a year, and then he actually spent some time in the prison system. One of the pictures up there is actually, he spent some time at, I think it was, I can't remember the name, but one of the prisons near Lancaster, and when he broke out of prison, he then went to Elizabethtown Middle School before coming back to UDS, which is when we ended up finding out that Cosmo would be a facility dog for Shepherdstown. So he had a full about 1.5 years of training before he even came to us. So he's been working for a while.
And you can go all throughout the presentation when you see all the cute puppy pictures.
So these are some of the dogs that we actually already have here at Mechanicsburg. We are lucky enough to have these dogs. Reading from the left, Andre is at the high school, Carson is at the middle school, Daisy is our newest addition at Kindergarten Academy, Dugan is at Northside, and Gideon is at Broad Street. a little bit about UDS. If some of you are not familiar, UDS is United Disability Services Foundation, and it's a nonprofit organization that supports aging veterans and people with physical, mental, and developmental disabilities. They actually have a program, which is where Cosmo came from, called Pups in the Classroom. Pups in the Classroom provides facility dogs in schools to help students who might struggle in the classroom, but I think that he's a huge benefit to staff as well. I mean, he is here for us just as much as he is here for the students. He has provided such a He's provided such a positive impact on the kids at our school as well as us.
Sorry about that. So to transition into our team at CHEP, we have a fantastic team of handlers, and that's the name that UDS shares for the trained adults who are working with their facility dogs. So from left to right, Mrs. Andrea Hennessy, a second grade teacher, Mrs. Cindy Diodato, one of our reading paraprofessionals. We have Mrs. Andrea Powell, a library paraprofessional, Mrs. Maureen Shea, our special education teacher. And then she actually just went through, along with Mrs. Hennessy and me, we went through the training just this past summer. And then I'm featured there. And then the bottom row, we have Mrs. Lauren Serio, our life skills teacher, Mrs. Tackard, and then Mrs. Kara Panic is also one of our handlers. And then not pictured, but was an instrumental part of the team is Mrs. Krista Archibald, the prior principal. So Cosmo's daily schedule, like I said, he has a schedule. He starts his day in our main lobby, and we'll touch on that here in just a little bit. And then he's out in classrooms all throughout the day. So he visits first grade, second grade. He does also support in third grade when he's in our reading intervention groups. He also goes to our life skills classroom every day. He's with our emotional support teacher. And then also, of course, as all dogs need, breaks throughout the day. He has opportunities to get outside at pretty scheduled times. We didn't include those in the schedule, but those are in there. And then also at the end of the day, he gets a walk. So he takes a nice walk with our students who are going to our neighborhood just right across the street from Shepherdstown. And I've been neglecting to mention some of the pictures. This was Cosmo reading during Drop Everything and Read. So we had that during our reading month in March. So he also participated. And then on the right, we have some students individually working with Cosmo. They were Mrs. Shea's Cosmo crew that she actually established this year. So pretty cool. So our morning greetings. The video will play here.
Cosmo says good morning too.
So every morning we begin our day at Shepherdstown. Cosmo stands in the lobby with me. Students have the opportunity, like the picture on the lower left, they come in, they ask, they do know, they are trained, they say, may we pet Cosmo or may I pet Cosmo? They come over and they pet him behind the vest. They love to say good morning. I probably have a consistent grouping of students that I see like on a daily basis that it's just they love to come over and it just helps with that transition. It helps with separation anxiety. We really saw in the beginning of the year Cosmo was so instrumental in that, being able to help students who really maybe struggled with coming into school. And then once we get ready for our morning announcements at Shepherdstown around 7:40, 7:45, I take a morning walk with him, and we go into every classroom. We say good morning, just as you saw in the video. If I don't have Cosmo with me, they're like, "Where is he? Why isn't he with you?" Suddenly my popularity decreases. But it's just a nice way to start our day. We take the same walk pretty much every morning. We're creatures of habit.
I mean, pretty similar for me as being Cosmo's primary handler. I get a lot of oh, you're Cosmo's mom. But just to include some pictures of Cosmo's day, this is Cosmo in Mrs. Hennessy's classroom during center time. So he is there during flex time. Students have the opportunity to read and complete independent activities with Cosmo. Ben Pahanic is a a member of Mrs. Hennessy's class, and he was actually in my classroom last year. So he is like a Cosmo pro. So he is going to share a little bit about Cosmo as well.
Hi, my name is Ben Hank. I'm going to tell you what we love about Cosmo. Every day he comes into my classroom and lays down, tries to take a nap, and listens to music while we do musty movies. Mr. E brings him around to say good morning to everyone. When a kid is upset, they can visit Cosmo to feel better. Sometimes he even wakes up. My mom is a hermit, and sometimes when Mrs. Tackert is away, Cosmo comes to our house and he even sleeps in my bed. We are so lucky to have Cosmo. Thank you for letting us get him.
And then these are a few pictures of Cosmo in my classroom. As you can see, Cosmo's trying to take a nap. And we've got some friends reading and some friends that might be taking a little snooze on there too. But Cosmo absolutely loves to be read to. He just really enjoys having the kids around. I think that's just that's what he's made to do. So.
And he also visits Miss Sirio's classroom, our life skills classroom. He's so loved in that classroom. We've just seen such great success. Again, Cosmo coming in, working with the students, and they, every time that we walk in the morning, they're just so excited to see Cosmo. It's just a little video of sharing some additional testimonies of why we love Cosmo at Shepherdstown.
I like about Cosmo that he's fluffy and I like to be with him. Cosmo because he's cute.
Delivering some mail.
Cosmo because he's cute. So I love Cosmo because he gives me licks sometimes. I love Cosmo because he's really cute and I love petting him because he makes my day very well.
Just some short notes of why we love Cosmo. And so I'd just like to thank you. Thank you so much, our school board, for supporting the facility dog program at Shepherdstown and across the district. It just adds so much in terms of feeling. You know, Mrs. Tackert shared that it really makes our school feel like a home. And I think when kids come in and see Cosmo there in the morning, just that comfort, that warmth, that feeling of peace of mind, that safety, just joy that he brings. So we greatly appreciate your support of our facility dog program. So thank you for your time. Ben, awesome job, and thank you so much, Mrs. Tackert.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say before you leave, when the idea first came up at a work session, I know I personally was like opposed to it. Not like that line in the sand, but I didn't see the need for it. And I know I've said this before publicly, but how wrong I was. I mean, when this program started, I forget which building it was in, and when you see the joy it brings to the kids and the staff and us and everybody else, I mean, it's just a great concept, and I hope it continues. I really do.
And thank you for the work that you do. Just, seeing Cosmo, seeing Gideon, seeing the other dogs, and just that it's an extra part of your day. It's an extra thing that you have to do, but it's surprising how much impact that has on the kids and on it changes the day and changes the environment. I think there's a school that doesn't have one yet, so we got to keep working on that one. 4 or 5 grade.
We just have to wait till the dogs are available.
Okay. So I have a question.
Okay, great.
How often do you guys, the handlers, do you take turns having them every night, or is there a main person has them and then you just?
So Cosmo lives with me.
You're the main handler
Yes.
then?
Yeah. So Cosmo comes to school with me every day, and I take him home every day. He's like my best friend.
And then, if you're going away or something and you don't want
Yes.
to take him, obviously there's other people that are.
Yeah, so anybody that went to the training with us
Right.
is able to keep him overnight. So I primarily send him to the Panics because I know that he has the boys to play with.
Right.
But yeah, so anybody that's trained to be with him is able to watch him overnight.
Any other questions?
I have a question. You mentioned frequent walks during, what happens during those frequent walks? I'm just, no.
I can honestly say that even when Cosmo's not in school, he is very schedule oriented.
Yeah, okay.
So those 2 o'clock on a Saturday, we are going for a walk.
And Cosmo, I know originally learned a number of commands when we go to the UDS, the 4-day training, and many of our staff gave of their time, like over the summertime, to go to the training. There's a series of commands, and I think it's close to 100, right?
Yes, yeah.
That he originally learns, and actually one of those commands is to go outside. So there's, he's very knowledgeable and do different things, so.
Yeah, the kids are always fascinated when he can turn lights on and off. It's nice that we have the push lights in our classrooms. He can push them with his nose and he can turn them on and off, so it's pretty cool.
When did that program start with the service dogs?
So Mr. Yan has Carson. That was our first one. What year was it, Joel?
I believe this is the 5th year.
Okay.
It's only been longer than that.
Yeah,
I
would
do
say
recall
10 years.
Mr. Bigham bringing it forward to administrative cabinet, and similar to you, although I was supportive of it too, I was thinking, how many policies, protocols, administrative regulations are we going to have to go through to make this happen? But all of them were worth it. And I think I remember one of the first comments that Mr. Yan made was about one of our therapeutic emotional support students, that every morning we were having a really difficult time getting this child out of the van to come into the school. And I think the first morning Carson sat there, the child jumped right off the van, and we never had an issue after getting that child into the building. And so as nice as it is, and the odds and that, the reality is there's a contribution that these service animals are making that really is impressive.
It truly is.
Yeah,
I
thank you
honestly
again.
say that, like, I mean, dogs are intuitive, people know that, but I have never met a group of dogs that knows more about how someone is feeling based on just intuition than these dogs.
I can personally attest to that. I remember it was at the environmental center, and Sean probably remembers this. It was right when we had to close down for COVID, and we were meeting as an administrative team, and then we're talking, and Carson came over, and this is the honest God's truth. That dog laid at my foot the entire meeting, and I thought, yeah, he can feel it. So,
You can tell.
He was sold after that.
that's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good stuff. So one year we had Mr. Yan present after the kindergarten students, got us on our hands and knees, and this year we have him presenting after we do our service dog. So I know that he has great stuff for us too.
Well, good evening, everyone, and it's a pleasure to see everybody and some new faces. So it's always good to see you. Look forward to meeting all of you personally. Tonight, I'm honored to be joined by a colleague of mine, Mrs. Nikki Bakusa. She's an 8th grade learning support teacher at the Mechanicsburg Middle School. And I know she's going to be introducing some of her assistants as well, so I don't want to rain on her parade. But most importantly is a student that Nikki has chosen to come and talk a little bit about what we call ESS, Mechanicsburg Middle School, extended school support for our students. A few years ago, post-pandemic, we had working from some ESSERS fund that some of you have played with, and we've looked for ways to catch kids up through the years, and we know the instructional time and opportunities during the pandemic, kids fell a little behind. We were trying to figure out a new system, and like most programs that we come up with, we express them to the teachers, and they take it to a whole nother level. And Nikki was able to take an idea that we had, one way of many, to begin to catch kids up, but not only think about the academic support, but the social and emotional development, and which we believe is an integral part of middle level education. So it's my pleasure to introduce Nikki Bakusa, and she's going to use some PowerPoint and then call it Alexa to.
Thanks, Mr. Yan. Thank you all for taking the time to be here tonight. Also, feel free to ooh and awe. Mrs. Sharp, who works with us, was like, we should have brought cupcakes.
She always thinks about food.
Yeah, she does, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does.
So Mrs. Sharp is, works with us in the ESS program, as does Ms. Fishel, and they're just here tonight for support. Also, as Mr. Yan said, I'm a learning support teacher, so ESY is part of special ed lingo, so if I accidentally say ESY, just substitute it with ESS. So as Mr. Yan said, ESS is a program that we have at the middle school. We meet with our students 2 times per week from October through June. And the program, as he said, really started during that hybrid learning year, and we had detention monitors who we didn't really have a need for. There was no real disciplining problems when you have half of your student body in the school. And so we brainstormed an idea of, let's utilize those teachers during that time to help our students academically. Now, that was 1 teacher at a time and only able to support about 20 to 30 students. And so the following year, I said to Mr. Yan and a previous assistant principal, can we keep this going? And what can it look like? And they asked, do we need it? We're not in hybrid learning anymore. And I said, nicely, yes, I think we do. We still have students who need summer school every year, and we still have students who are struggling academically. And that really was our primary focus when we first started the program. But once we had, as Mr. Yan said, the ESSERS funding, we were really able to grow the program. So we were able to have 5 teachers supporting the program, which increased our number of students. We also were able to provide transportation for our students. That was a big hindrance during the hybrid learning because we had to rely on the parents. Right now, 91% of our students that are in the program use the transportation that we're able to provide. So that's a huge piece of our program. And so over the past 3 years, we've really honed and fine-tuned the program, growing more from just looking at strictly work completion, but what are some skills that the students are missing that help support them academically? And so we started looking at some executive functioning skills. Can they manage their time? Can they prioritize? Can they organize? That's probably the biggest one. And then also just student belongingness. So we continue to grow in different areas each year. And you can see there our number of students continues to grow each year as well. As of yesterday, we had 78 students enrolled in at some point this year, enrolled in the program. We try and keep it at about 50, give or take, so that each staff member has about 10 students that they're working with. And students are recommended by either their counselors, their teachers. And what's also really cool is that we have students who are now starting to advocate for themselves. Last year, we had 5 students approach us and say, can I be part of this program? So far this year, we've had 9 students reach out. And I think that just speaks to the fact that the program has a positive light, and students are hearing that they're finding success, or their friends are finding success. So taking a deep dive into some of the data, looking at the last 2 years at some of our neediest students as far as academics, those requiring summer school, meaning they failed 2 or more classes for the core classes for the academic year. I looked at the students who needed summer school and then were part of ESS the following year. And during the 21-22 school year, 91% of those students who previously needed summer school did not require summer school that following year. And then last year it was at 88% of students who did not need summer school again. So looking at that academic piece, that was a big win, I feel like, for us. Those percentages were really exciting to see. Overall, just looking at reduction in failing grades at everyone, not just those who needed summer school. Last year, we had an overall reduction of failing grades at 33% of the students. This year, that second number is only for the first semester. We were supposed to present in February, but we had the snowstorm. So I only had, at that point, that first half of the data. So hopefully by the end of this year, we'll see an improvement and that number growing as well, closer to what it was last year as well. Then we also look at student belongingness, and we took part of the UPenn belongingness survey that the middle schoolers take, and we focused on 3 statements. I feel like a real part of MMS, People notice when I'm doing something good or that I'm good at something, and then at least one teacher or adult in the building I can go to with a problem. And the students rated themselves 1 to 5 on this. And so looking, because last year was our first full year of data collection for this, 55% of our students showed an increase when looking at those 3 specific statements. When we looked at those who stayed the same or increased, we were at 81%. And for the students who didn't, then we kind of looked at them a little bit more closely. Do they need to talk with a counselor? What else can we do to support them to hopefully see them grow? For me, as a middle level educator, knowing how hard middle school is, that last bullet up there was probably for me the biggest accomplishment for the program. That the largest, when we broke it down by question, the largest percent increase was that students felt like they had someone to talk to in the building. And whether that was their ESS teacher, whether it's just they're feeling more confident in their classrooms and finding more success academically and better connected to those teachers, whatever the reason was, we saw that increase, and that was really exciting to see. What do the kids have to say? Obviously, they're the reason we're doing all of this, and we always want to get their feedback. So at the end of last year, in our last survey, we did ask them, how did ESS help you? What can we do to improve? And you can see there what some of their responses were. I like the fact that you see not just the academic piece, like it made me happy I went from F's to A's and B's, but also I had more confidence. I connected to different people and I have more motivation. So all those different things we're really looking to build in middle schoolers, especially as we're transitioning them to high school with more independence. I feel like we are hitting here with them. So before Jalexa speaks, this student was part of wrestling, now he's part of rugby, so he couldn't come in, but I did ask him, I gave him a couple questions that I was gonna ask and said, hey, can you just talk about the program a little bit. He was actually a move-in student in 6th grade, and a 6th grade teacher reached out to me. It was the very first year that we were not in hybrid learning, so the first real year of the program, and she said, hey, he's gonna be your student in 2 years. He's struggling a little bit academically, needs some, I think, some guidance with some social pieces. Could you connect with him even if it benefits you 2 years down the road? And so he joined and he actually graduated from the program, that's what we call it. Students start 2 days a week. If they are doing well, we decrease them to 1 day a week, make sure they're still sustaining those skills that we've taught them, and eventually graduate them from the program. So he took a few minutes. He did write his answers down. He was nervous. That might also be the reason he didn't want to come in and just have it recorded. But yeah, we'll see what he has to say.
My name is Caleb Goss. I attended ESS in 6th grade, mostly through 7th grade, so I graduated in the spring.
All right, so I'm just going to ask you a few questions to get some information about your thoughts on ESS. So my first question is, how did ESS help support you as a new student at the middle school?
So how it helped me, as being a new student to middle school, it helped me to meet new people and to feel supported throughout the program, meeting people, the teachers, and the staff made me feel supported.
What skills did ESS provide you with to find success at the middle school?
Some skills I would say that helped me during my time in ESS. I would say that using my time wisely, doing it, and the quality of my work.
And what were your biggest takeaways from ESS?
Some big takeaways I would say from ESS would be getting closer to staff and teachers, and also getting my work done. So, yeah.
And if a student were debating on whether or not to join ESS, what would you tell them?
I would say join, because ESS gives you the time and enough time to get your work done for you to boost your grade, but it can also help you meet new people around the program, different grade levels, so you can just be more social instead of feeling left out and being new to the school.
Thank you.
So I really like that he talked about meeting new people in different grade levels. The one nice thing about ESS is we group students 6th, 7th, and 8th grade mixed together. And so even walking in the hallways, we now will see some 8th graders saying hi to 6th graders. being in special education, I don't get out with a lot of the large population. But I see just the other day in the comments, a student yelled across the comments to me, "Hi, Ms. Makusa," and it was a 6th grader who had graduated from the program earlier. So being able to see that in the hallways and carrying over, not just in ESS, has been nice to see as well. Also, the English teacher in me loved that he restated all of my questions. I did not tell him to do that. So that was so now we have Jalexa, just to give you a little bit of background. Jalexa is in her 3rd year of ESS with us, and she actually just recently decreased to 1 day per week. She was not happy about it. We do have that. We have students who are like, no, I don't want to go down. I'm like, yeah, you need to, especially transitioning to the high school and with that independence piece. Her 6th grade year ended the year with a D, an F in her core class, and she didn't say I could say this, so. And some C's in there. Last year, she required summer school. I think she had 2 F's, a D, and some C's. And this last marking period, her lowest grade was an 84%, which is 1 point away from an A. So she is working very hard. She is working very hard to get on the honor roll. So that is we're so close, but that is our goal for the last marking period. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hello, my name is Jalexa Diaz. I am currently an 8th grader at Mechanicsburg Middle School, and I have been an active participant in ESS Extended School Support since the 6th grade. ESS has supported me in a variety of ways, such as being organized, filling out my agenda book, and working on missing assignments, keeping everybody clean and organized, and prioritizing my work. I also have improved upon my writing skills and my proper etiquette when emailing teachers or any adult. ESS has also helped me improve my grades and gain the confidence to ask for help when it is needed, and to get in the habit of doing my work at home and making strategies or plans to complete work at home by myself and to check my grades regularly. I personally struggle with shutting down, especially when things get hard for me. So my ESS teacher has and continued to help me think of ways to prevent me shutting down during classes, such as taking a small walk around the halls, getting a drink or putting my head down for a short period of time. My biggest takeaways from participating in ESS for the past 3 years is that I have learned to have a positive mindset, and I have grown to have a better relationship with my peers and adults. ESS needs to continue because it helps students improve academically, socially, and emotionally, and it helps them become more mature. And I want to thank all adults and everybody who has helped and continue to help and support me. And I want to thank you for your time here. And do you have any questions?
Questions?
I just want to say I wish this was in my school growing up, because I, even into adulthood, had a problem just asking for help sometimes, thinking I need to figure it all out. Being organized, I didn't learn that until college when I got a D. And I said, well, I got to have time management and be organized. And I was really good at taking tests. So that's how I got through high school, I think. So this is really encouraging that this program exists for me personally to help you with those skills to succeed.
I love your name. I can tell already, are you in 8th grade now? There is a sense of maturity to you that is really evident, and it'll take you far in life, so you've done really good. You should be proud of yourself.
Absolutely.
We're proud of you, and when you get that first taste of success, it just keeps building, so believe in yourself.
I'll make a comment that first of all, I'm very impressed with your speaking ability and getting up in front of all these adults and everything is scary. I still get scared sometimes speaking in front of them. But what I will say is that when you look back on this and you look and you say, we all have a tendency to, because I was in your position in terms of struggling to read and whatnot in middle school. And when you look back, we always look at other students that it seems to be easy, and we say, well, why not us? Well, the reason is, why not us? Why can't it be easy for us is because, they're not standing in front of us and pressing us like you are. And sometimes the struggle and sometimes the difficulty is part of the learning process. So although that sucked that you had to go to school in the summer, and although that sometimes maybe A's didn't come as easy as some people that you look, man, you're going to be in such a better place because of that. And I love your 3 things that you do to kind of take a breather. But you're going to find as you get older, these struggles are going to get less, and all the stuff that you've learned from these wonderful people will serve you immensely. So, great job. And it's why I'm here. It's why we're all here.
Absolutely.
For people like you, for students like you, because it makes us proud to represent students like you. So, great job.
Great.
So just something Jalexa said just reminded me, we do teach the students at the beginning about email writing. We work in some different activities for them, and it's just been amazing to see how much they grow, obviously. So just wanted to thank you for taking the time tonight to learn a little bit more about this program that really encompasses academics and the relationships for our students, which is really critical in that middle level education piece, and a program that we are super proud of at the middle school. Any questions for me?
Just thank you for everything you do.
Yeah, I love it.
And thank you for, we hear about the COVID years that were sometimes called the lost years, and kids fell through the cracks and everything. And this program, not only for the COVID years, but that you continue it beyond the COVID years, to look for those kids that just need a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of structure, something just to pull them so that they're successful. And the efforts that you guys do is showed us very easily this evening. And thank you for continuing to do that and continuing to put that program in place for those that need that assistance, and not just, oh, we only needed it for a year or two, but continuing to do that. Thank you for that. And all the people that work with you and support you. And it really would have been great to have cupcakes tonight.
Shameless. You, Sharp. He said it would have been great to have cupcakes.
I have a question.
We're here another hour at least. You can make it to Giant and back.
Mr. Sack.
So this program touches a little less than 10% of the students at MMS. As you develop the program, as you've all developed it, what have any ideas cropped up that can be fed back to the broader student body that can improve everyone? That's my first question.
Yeah, and I think what we try and do too, I'm in pretty frequent communication with the team leaders and the counselors, and sharing some of the strategies that we are using. I know Mr. Yan and I have talked a little bit about for next year, really talking to the staff about what more specifically that we're doing, and I think utilizing different times. I know sometimes our PASS program will encompass some of these things, but we use this kind of as like a tier 2 intervention, and looking at hopefully also preventing some identifications for special ed and pieces like that. But we have talked, and I share those things with the team leaders.
As a comment, I thought it's really what symbolism of taking what was a detention monitoring program into something that you outlined here. Really, really great. Then my question for Mr. Yonner and the administration, what's the future of this program without ESSER funds?
Well, it's a great question, and you might have noticed some data up there.
Yeah.
And that's purposeful. We said that we needed to make sure that where that money was going, that investment, there was evidence that investment was paying dividends. And so as we move forward, that's something that'll be part of the budget conversations, but it's really compelling evidence to see.
For sure. Thank you.
Well, and I have to say, Jalexa, you know, any student in this, you can go a couple different directions, right? And you made one statement as you were speaking, and I saw this spark come out of your eyes, this power of persuasion, and you said, you need to keep this program. And you said it in a way that was very appropriate, but there was no doubt in my mind that it was coming straight from your heart, and you meant it, and that makes a difference, as was already stated here. Don't ever forget that power of persuasion that you have, using it in a positive way.
Well, I was just going to say that you're exactly right, because all those data figures were up there, but I remember that she said that, and I said, I was going to say that students like you are what the future of this program is based upon. No, seriously.
Just remember, struggles make you stronger.
And we have encountered struggles, haven't we? Yeah. I don't get the opportunity to work with Jalexa in the same capacity as the teachers, and I will say she is evidence that when you don't give up on kids, this is the byproduct. And I couldn't be any happier with this young lady to stand up here in front of you tonight, because that is a huge step in the right direction. I have no doubt she will reach limits beyond what she even recognizes she can fill, moving forward. But I gotta publicly thank these individuals back here and the ones who couldn't make it tonight, because without them persevering and pushing through and looking at growth as opposed to where somebody is as a 6th grade student in 7th grade, she wouldn't be where she is today. So thank you all, and we're proud of you. All right, keep it up. All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Lighty. Move on to item 4.02, Capital Area Intermediate Unit, Mr. Bradley.
Oh, sure, make me follow that, I tell you. The board met on the 28th of March. There were some common themes. It was an interesting thread throughout the meeting. They talked about learning walks and doing learning walks. And for anybody that's not familiar with what a learning walk is, it's basically, especially for the intermediate unit, a lot of the people at the facilities in Enola work in the facilities in Enola. So if you ask them, well, what's going on at Hilltop, or what's going on at Daycon, or what's going on at the program down at the Gap, they say, well, I get reports on it, or I might hear conversations about it. And so learning walks are basically get up out of your seat and go see what's happening at the early learning center in Lower Allen. Go see what's happening at Hilltop. Go see the programs and see what's actually going on and learn from that, so that they have a different appreciation when it comes time to talking about budgeting, or talking about planning, or talking about successes or areas of improvement. So throughout it, the different groups talked about the learning walks and talked about going out and doing just those things to figure out what's really happening in the program. So it was great to hear their perspective of it. They also talked about Doubletree in Reading as a great facility, other than the chocolate chip cookies that they always bake, but Doubletree in Reading as a great place to learn how to embrace community and work with community. Dr. Roberts also talked about the U.S. Naval Academy, and they went down to the Naval Academy. So it was just all these different opportunities to learn a little bit more about leadership, about how you reach out to folks, how you make the most in different environments. So it was a great thread throughout the meeting to hear about these different things and hear how it's all interacted. They did talk about, I've talked about it before, we have Operation Wildcat that is a great support. They have Champions for Children, and the things that they do for the Champions for Children, satisfying requests all year round, and it's very similar to the program that we have. And they do different fundraisers like the golf outing, and I know I think it just happened this past weekend, they did a big bingo thing, and they said, if you come to play bingo, you come and play bingo. You don't come to have fun with bingo. They're very serious bingo players. So they talk about the bingo things, but just different ways again for them to support their groups and their organizations. So, and then the other topic they talked about is working to a yes. Is figuring out how to work to that yes of what can we do, as opposed to somebody brings a problem forward and the first thing you say is no. Kind of like I was always taught, you can always do something if you're prepared for the time and the money and what it's going to, the amount of effort, so never say no. But that's what Dr. Roberts was talking about, getting his team to a point where they are working towards a yes to figure out what can we do, how can we do this, how can we accomplish things. And so it was a different meeting in the sense of we usually sit and hear budget after budget after budget after budget, like we're voting on a budget this evening. But just to see the different perspectives from the intermediate unit and the work that they're doing in a couple of different realm, a couple of different areas, kind of took me for a turn, a good turn. So, and that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bradley? I just want to say, Mr. Bradley, you brought up the Naval Academy. Anytime anybody's in Annapolis, I would strongly urge you to take a tour of it. It's really a fascinating place. It's not just what they do academically, but the property itself and the history of it. It's a very, I know Dr. Leidy was just there at a conference the other week and was equally as impressed with it. So
Well, yeah, and Doubletree in Reading was there too. An amazing story and oasis within that town that is expanding out to improve the community.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. 4.03, Cumberland Perry Area Career and Technical Center report, Mr. Sanker.
Thank you. The JOC doesn't usually meet in March. However, we had a special meeting on March 25th to review aspects of essentially the item we have tonight on our board agenda, approval of borrowing from the State Public School Building Authority. And it was outlined in the board update on Friday and some more context on it. It's not a, I don't want to say it's a mere formality for our district, but it is essentially a formality for all of the original joining members that made up the CTC consortium to approve this borrowing, even though we are not incurring any debt as Mechanicsburg as part of this. We're paying cash as our contribution to the building project, but that was essentially all we did at that meeting, which was good in a sense. We were able to do it by Zoom and kind of save some folks some travel time. Our next meeting is April 22nd.
Any questions for Mr. Sanker? Report. Move on to item 4.04, Wildcat Foundation report, Mrs. Huff.
Thanks. The Wildcat Foundation, the purpose of the Wildcat Foundation is to raise money and then make sure we give it back to kids. And so the things that we're working on right now are the golf tournament, which is one of the raise money events, and that will be August 16th at the Carlisle Barracks, and registration for that begins May 1st. So if you're a golfer, we'd love to have you there. Also, this is already planning far ahead, but the Wildcat Foundation night for next year, the date's already been set, and that's February 21st. So looking at similar location, and I think similar theme to this year, was very successful and a lot of fun. As far as giving money away, scholarships, they're accepting applications for scholarships now, and that process will be completed by the end of the year. And most recently, the grant committee looked at all of the grants that were submitted. I believe there were 41 grants, and the Wildcat Foundation applications. The Wildcat Foundation will be coming to the board for approval of the grants that were approved.
Thank you, Mrs. Huff. Any questions from Mrs. Huff on the Wildcat Foundation? It's a great organization. I'm glad you've stepped up to continue participating in your capacity now.
Thank you.
Item 4.05, PSBA legislative report. I have no formal report. Move on to 4.06, Finance Facilities Committee report, Mr. Sanker.
The committee did not meet, but we discussed a number of things in our most recent work session that are in the finance items and facilities items tonight under consideration. Bless you. So just to say, we've had a first reading of a number of the items we're going to see tonight for vote.
Any questions for Mr. Sanker? Item 4.07, Board President Report. Announcement of an executive session held on March 26, 2024 at 6 p.m. to discuss personnel and safety matters. Announcement of an executive session held on March 26, 2024 at 8:45 p.m. to discuss personnel matters. Announcement of an executive session held this evening at 6:40 p.m. to discuss personnel and student matters. I'd also like to thank Mr. Undercuffler and Mrs. Bear for the tour that 6 of us were able to take last week. It was a very, and they're always great. It's something we started doing as we did the construction on the buildings, and we decided to continue trying to do like 2 buildings a year. It's well worth your time if you can get off work to come out and do it. It's just very, always interesting, and I want to thank you and your staff for the excellent tour. And on that same note is, on March 20th, 2024, then Mr. Bitz and I went to Shippensburg University to the exemplary program presentations and recognition luncheon, and 2 of our buildings were recognized there. And that was the Amazing Americans program that's put on at Broad Street School, and also the 4th grade Wonder Showcase that's put on at the 4-5 Academy. And again, it was just a great program, seeing the recognition in some of these other districts and what they've done, and our 2 buildings were recognized there. It was a very informative and interesting day. So again, thank you, Mr. Undercuffler and staff, and Ms. Alexandra, I don't see her, but and her staff for the program. So that concludes my report. Any questions? Move on to new business, budget and finance. Item 6.01, Treasurer's Report. Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to approve of the treasurer's report as per the attachments, which include the following. Number 1 is the treasurer's report for March 2024. Number 2 is the board budget report for March 2024. Number 3 is the general fund invoices paid from March 13th through April 8th, and check number 68072 through 68211 in the amount of $632,273.03. Number 4 is the electronic payments in the amount of $4,192,800.50. Number 5 is the general fund invoices payable, check number 68212 through 68237 in the amount of $951,662.54. Capital Reserve Fund invoices paid, check number 1898 through 1901 in the amount of $6,908.70. Number 7 is the series of 2023 construction fund invoices paid, check number 187 through 197 in the amount of $1,853,584.99. Number 8 is the investment portfolio. And number 9 is the quarterly SAF and TF balance report covering July 2023 through March 2024.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What is the origin of reading this aloud at the meetings?
To be read into the minutes, I think, is where we've done it historically.
Read into the record.
So it has to be read into the record and not just presented as a.
That's my understanding. We can
No, I mean,
check for sure, but that's my understanding. It's a public
Mrs.
reading.
Morgan does a bang-up
Yeah,
job.
she does. Yeah.
Do you have a complaint?
No, I literally, I love how you do it, and it's eloquent. I'm just, you make numbers sound beautiful. I'm just saying.
I'm just wondering if we could say,
Yeah,
could we look at it, everybody read it? 'Cause
Items
most
1
of
through
it-
10 or whatever.
We can check. I feel like we've talked about this
I think
previously.
we have, and I think we have to do it. It was the legal recommendation.
I'm reading it, okay?
Okay, whatever, I'm just saying. It's beautiful. You do a great job. It's a question.
It's my only job.
Okay.
I made her give up.
Saying, I didn't realize.
You made me
Well,
give
Mr.
up
Longwell
I
personnel.
made her give up personnel, so she needs
Mr.
something
Longwell is
to
the
do.
treasurer. Will you still read that?
What?
Maybe.
Continue. I apologize. We digress.
Yes, you do.
Any other discussion on the treasurer's report? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 6.02, Ms. Morgan.
I ask the board to approve the 2024 through 2025 capital area intermediate unit operating budget as per the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
6.03, Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to approve the 2024 through 2025 proposed final general fund budget, making it available for a public inspection as presented in the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
And item 6.04, Ms. Morgan.
I ask the board to approve the resolution authorizing the Cumberland Terry Career and Technical Center to enter into an agreement with the State Public School Building Authority for facility upgrades.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 8, new business, facilities. Item 8.01, Mr. Sanker.
Make a motion to approve the bid results for the door replacement project at the middle school as per the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
8.02, Mr. Sanker.
Make a motion to approve the bid results for the sewer pump replacement project at the middle school as per the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 8.03, Mr. Sanker.
I make a motion to endorse the Facilities Planning Committee recommendations as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 8.04, Mr. Sanker.
I make a motion to acknowledge PDE approval of revised Plan Con Part J, project accounting based on final costs as presented in the attached.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 9, new business, personnel. Item 9.01, Mr. Bradley.
I'd ask the board to approve the personnel report as per the attachments.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 9.02, Mr. Bradley.
I'd ask the board to approve the communications specialist job description as per the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 9.03, Mr. Bradley.
And I would ask the board to approve the appointment of Dr. Andrew Bitz as acting superintendent beginning July 1, 2024.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Last chance, Dr. Bitz.
All right. Roll call vote, Mr. Longwell.
All right, we'll call the roll. We'll begin with Mr. Bradley.
Yes.
Mr. Frangel.
Yes.
Mrs. Huff.
Yes.
Mr. Kickline.
Yes.
Dr. Lebo.
Yes.
Ms. Morgan.
Yes.
Dr. Rhodes.
Yes.
Mr. Rupp. Oh,
Yes.
Mr. Sanker, sorry.
Yes.
And then Mr. Rupp.
Yes. Well, congratulations. Now, Doctor. Mrs. Bitz is here, and if you'd like to introduce your children also.
Yeah, absolutely. Real stars of the show, my wife, Jen Bitz, and our three kids, Maddie, Austin, and Kate, all proud Wildcats. Called this district home for 20 years, and I couldn't be more honored that the board is putting their faith in me to have this next part of the journey. So thank you. And I'll also take this opportunity, I've got to steal this opportunity to thank Dr. Lighty for his mentorship and friendship over the years, and certainly a number of people in the audience here at the table and throughout my career that have really supported me in amazing ways. So thank them. And of course, as you mentioned, most importantly, thanking the support of my wife, Jen, and my kids, because without their unconditional love and support, I definitely wouldn't be here.
And at this time, I'd also like to congratulate you. If you notice, I did say that then Mr. Bitz when we went to SHIP. But
Yeah.
since then, you have successfully defended your
I have,
dissertation
yes.
and earned your doctorate. So I'd like to congratulate Dr. Bitz on earning that the other Friday. So.
It's on order.
Okay.
I
didn't take notice of that. All right, we'll move on to new business, policy. Mr. Frangel, my speech therapist has been working on me, so is that correct?
That was perfect, well done.
Very
sir.
good, I'm happy.
I'd ask the board to adopt the agreement and waiver of hearing before the board of directors between parent, student, and the board, and the terms and conditions set forth therein. Direct the superintendent to place said agreement in students' education records. Authorize the superintendent to act on behalf of the board in implementing the agreement and order the expulsion of the following student. Student E of 2023-2024, beginning February 16th, 2024, for 1 calendar year.
The second. Any further discussion?
I feel like I'm a broken record, but I say this every time, and I'm going to do it every single time. We have students in the audience, and I just want everybody to understand that I'm proud of how this district handles expulsions. And when I went to school, expulsions were you left school and you were being kicked out. But the way we handle it here in Mechanicsburg is that we really look at what's best for the student and what's going to further the student's academic career. So your father will not be the head of a district that kicks students out of school. We do it really in the student's best interest. And I say that every single time we do this because it's important.
And I think that shows in some of our programs as our middle school presentation tonight, in trying to avoid things before they get to that, even being proactive on it also. And it's great of the administration to take that approach for us to support it. It really is. Any other discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 12, hearing of visitors. We have reached a second opportunity for public comment. This opportunity is reserved for comments on issues not listed on the agenda and not being voted upon this evening. As a reminder, public comment is limited to residents of the school district. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and requires community members to observe a reasonable decorum. If you'd like to address the board, please come up to the podium and share your name and municipality in which you reside. This is for items that were not on the agenda tonight. Seeing none, item 13, Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to adjourn.
Do the second.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.